The wind outside whispered softly, brushing against the frosted windows of Riverbend Animal Haven, a quiet, unassuming rescue shelter nestled deep in the sleepy suburbs. Morning light filtered through the dusty glass panes, casting golden shadows across the cool tiled floors and flickering like sunlight on still water. Somewhere near the back-past rows of barking, tail-wagging dogs eager for attention lay a different story. A German shepherd named Shadow. Shadow didn't bark. He didn't wag his tail. He simply watched from the farthest, darkest corner of his kennel, his amber eyes hollow, guarded, still. He had arrived 3 weeks earlier, found wandering near a construction site, limping and bruised. Thin, white scars stretched across his ribs and legs like faded battle lines. The volunteers didn't know much about his past. They didn't need to. His body spoke volumes of fear, hunger, and survival. And the way he flinched whenever anyone reached out, that said more than words ever could. They called him Shadow not just because of his smoky gray coat, but because of how he moved, fading from every hand, every kind voice, like mist. No matter what the staff tried, treats, toys, long hours sitting beside him in silence, Shadow refused to trust. The training sessions were the worst for him. The loud whistles, harsh commands. Time drills, what was meant to help, felt like punishment. While other dogs jumped through hoops or sat on cue, Shadow froze. Stumbled, trembled. He wasn't stubborn. He was terrified. Each failed attempt added another scrape to his legs, another bruise to his ribs, another reason to disappear into himself. He wasn't dangerous. He was broken. Quietly, painfully broken. Some whispered he might never come around, that he was too far gone. Still, every morning, a volunteer left a bowl of food just outside his door. Every night, someone whispered a soft good night. And still, Shadow stayed in the shadows, but change was coming, and it wouldn't come on a leash. It wouldn't wear a badge or a clicker. It would come in the form of a 12-year-old girl with quiet eyes, and her own story of invisible scars. Emily Morgan used to dance. She was 7 when her parents signed her up for ballet, hopeful she'd find a rhythm in herself the world hadn't yet seen. But ballet didn't come easy. It hurt her legs, her pride, her confidence. The positions were strange, the movements unnatural. When her instructor finally told her she had no real talent, the words didn't sting, they branded her, deep and slow. But what Emily lacked in grace, she made up for in grit. She stayed after class alone. Her mom waited in the car, heater on, warm cocoa in hand, always waiting, always encouraging. And little by little, Emily's stiff limbs became fluid. Her movements began to sing. 2 years later, she wasn't just good, she was the best. Applause followed her on stage. Teachers smiled when she entered the studio. Emily had found her place, her light, her fire. Until the fall. It came just after her 10th birthday. A slip, a shatter, and silence. Doctors said she'd recover, but her leg would never dance again. And just like that, her world collapsed. No studio, no music, no pointe shoes. Emily moved through life in a wheelchair, now quiet, distant, unsure. Her parents tried everything: therapy, tutors, new hobbies. But nothing reached her. Nothing stirred her spirit. Until one day, a therapist said gently, maybe try animals. Not for activity, just for connection. And so, one chilly morning, Emily was wheeled through the iron gates of Riverbend Animal Haven. She didn't want to be there. She didn't expect anything. She didn't even look up. Row after row, kennel after kennel, barking dogs begged for her attention. She ignored them all. Until she reached the end of the path, the farthest corner, and saw him. Shadow. He didn't bark. He didn't beg. He lay still, ears pinned back. His thin body curled in like a secret. His fur was dull, peppered with scabs. But his eyes, They weren't fierce. Just tired. Emily stared. Not at his scars, not at his limping posture, but at the way he looked away like he had given up on being seen. "What's his name?" she whispered. A volunteer glanced over. "That's Shadow. He doesn't like people much." Emily said nothing. She just looked, because she'd seen that posture before in the mirror. That afternoon, she watched from the sidelines as Shadow was led into a training pen. The whistle blew. Commands echoed. Shadow tried. He stumbled. He froze. By the end, another scratch bloomed on his leg. His head hung low, and something inside Emily stirred. 5 years ago, she had been just like him, stiff, frustrated, lost. She remembered her bruised ankles, the tears no one saw, the voice that said, "You'll never be good enough." Watching Shadow, she saw that same fight, that same fear, that same aching silence, and for the first time in a long while, she wanted something. Not for herself, for him. That night at dinner, she finally spoke. "I want to train a dog." Her parents blinked. "There's a program at the shelter. You work with one dog for 6 months. I want to work with Shadow." Silence. Then carefully, "Honey, he's not like the others," her mother said softly. "What if it's too much?" Emily's voice didn't shake. "Then I'll go slow. I don't want to fix him. I just want to try." Later that week, she submitted the application. The shelter staff hesitated. Shadow was labeled a low potential case. Some whispered, it's cruel to give her hope. But Emily wasn't the same girl who'd rolled through their gates. Weeks ago, she knew that look in Shadow's eyes, and she didn't need him to be perfect. She just wanted to give him a chance. The first week, she didn't ask him to do anything. No treats, no commands. Just presence. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, she showed up. Shadow was brought to a quiet yard. Emily sat nearby. Sometimes she read. Sometimes she hummed soft music. Mostly, she just waited. Shadow never came close. But he didn't run either. And that, to Emily, was enough. The second week, he crept a little nearer. One day, she dropped a towel. Shadow flinched but didn't bolt. He sniffed it, nudged it. Emily smiled. "That's okay. Good job." That became their rhythm, quiet trust, gentle space. By the end of the month, Shadow walked beside her chair. He leaned against her leg. He didn't obey, he chose to stay. No clickers. No commands. Just understanding. Emily's laughter returned. Her mornings brightened. And slowly, quietly, so did Shadow. By month 3, even the trainers noticed. He didn't flinch at footsteps. He stood taller. He walked steadier. The girl in the chair and the dog in the shadows were healing. Together. Whispered once, watching Shadow calmly rest his head on Emily's lap. He just believes in her. And it was true. Shadow had found safety. In a place no one expected, beside a girl in a wheelchair who once felt just as unseen. For Emily, progress wasn't about booty-atching shadow tricks. It was about helping him reclaim parts of himself. Courage, curiosity, the quiet joy of being near someone who didn't expect perfection. And in that process, Emily was reclaiming something too. Her therapist noticed the change before shedded. Emily talked more. She smiled more. She began asking questions about animal behavior, reading books on training techniques. The girl who once dreaded leaving the house now counted down the days until her next session. Her mother started packing her lunches with little notes that read, "So proud of you." Emily never spoke about dancing anymore, not out of sadness, but because something new had begun to grow in its place. Shadow had started to lift his head higher, and so had she. By the end of the 3rd month, something shifted. Shadow, once the dog, who cowered every step, now stood taller. He walked beside Emily, not just out of comfort, but with a calm confidence that hadn't been there before. His eyes, once clouded with fear, now held focus, curiosity, even trust. The other volunteers noticed. Some stopped touch as he weaved through cones without stumbling, responding to Emily's quiet gestures like they shared a language no one else could hear. No leash, no commands, only rhythm, flow. For the first time, Shadow wasn't just serving. He was shining. Emily felt it, too. There was something in the way she rolled her chair now. Purposeful, steady. She looked forward to her sessions, not just because of Shadow, but because of the girl she became when she was with him. Patient, strong, proud. I didn't think he'd come this far, one trainer admitted as he watched them work. But I didn't think she would either. That comment stayed with Emily. She realized it wasn't just Shadow who had changed. She had too. Every morning, no. She woke up with a goal. She stretched a little longer, smiled a little sooner. And most days she didn't feel like the girl who used to dance. She just felt like Emily, the girl who helped a forgotten dog believe in himself. And in doing so started to believe in herself again. The shelter's annual training showcase was approaching, a public event where volunteers demonstrated what the dogs had learned. Families, local press, and trainers from other cities would be watching. Emily had known about the event, but never expected to be part of it. Shadow wasn't flashy. He didn't perform tricks or respond to voice commands. But when the staff quietly invited her to enter the exhibition, something inside her whispered, "You're ready." "He's ready," she said. "Yes." The day of the event, the yard wastrons formed. Tents lined the fence, banners waved in the breeze, and music floated over the speakers. Emily sat near the gate, her hands trembling slightly on her lap. Shadow rested beside her, calm as ever, head against their leg. They were scheduled last. At finish, one trainer had said, Emily watched other dogs leap through hoops, weave between poles, roll, fetch, bark on command. Applause erupted for each one. They were confident, well-trained, sharp. Shadow, by comparison, seemed simple, gentle, still. But when their turn came, Emily took a breath and nodded to the handle at the gate. Shadow rose and walked beside her. No leash, no push. They began their routine. It wasn't a performance. It was a story. Shadow followed her through cones, paused when she did, made eye contact when she whispered. He stopped when a loud cheer startled him, looked to Emily, and continued. Every step was quiet, every gesture filled with trust. When they finished there was no roar of applause, just silence. Then a slow rising wave of clapping that grew and grew. Emily didn't cry. She didn't need to. Shadow had done more than just complete their routine. He had proven to everyone watching, and maybe most of all to himself, that he was more than what he'd once believed. After the applause faded and the crowd began to disperse, Emily sat quietly with Shadow in the shade of an old oak tree. There were no ribbons, no trophies, but that didn't matter. For the first time, she wasn't thinking about what she had lost. She was thinking about what she had found. Shadow lay beside her, his breathing low and steady. His body was no longer tense. His tail thumped gently against grass. Emily ran her fingers through his fur and whispered, "You did it," and so did she. That evening, as they drove home, Emily looked out the window and said softly, "I don't miss dancing." Her mother glanced over, surprised. "You didn't?" Emily shook her head. "I thought that was the only thing that made me me, but maybe I was wrong," her mom smiled. "You've always been more than one a dream." Emily didn't say anything at first. Then she asked, "Do you think I could be a real dog trainer? Like for life?" Her mom reached over and squeezed her hand. "I think you already are." From that moment on, Emily stopped looking back. Her dream hadn't died. It had transformed. From leotards to leashes, from stage lights to healing hearts, from performance to purpose. And every time she walked beside Shadower, helped another frightened dog take its first brave step, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. Years passed. Emily grew. So did Shadow. Slower now, a little gray around the muzzle, but still with that same steady loyalty in his eyes. She became a certified dog trainer, working with rescues across the state, helping animals others had given up on. People called her the girl with the calm voice, the one who sat for hours beside a dog that wouldn't look up until one day it did. Shadow remained by her side through it all. Her first client, her first success, her quiet reminder of how far they'd come. One afternoon, Emily spoke to a group of young kids in wheelchairs. She told them her story. Not about loss, but about change. We don't always get to keep the dreams we started with, she said, but we get to choose new ones. And sometimes they're even better. Shep asked, looking down at Shadow, resting at her feet. This is the only life we have. Don't let sadness waste it. There's always another path, and a third realm, and someone or something waiting to walk it with.